Eagles fans, buckle up. The calm before week 1 is officially over. Howie Roseman has turned training camp into pure chaos with not one, not two, but three shocking trades in a single weekend. And insiders are saying the biggest move is still coming. On top of that, ESPN is circling one of Philly's brightest stars. A.J. Brown is battling an injury scare, and Micah Parsons' holdout could completely reshape week 1. Oh, and the roster cuts? They're already leaving fans furious. This is not just another Eagles update. This feels like a storm that could change everything. If you thought this was going to be a quiet ending to Eagles training camp, you were dead wrong. Howie Roseman, the mad scientist of the NFL, has struck again. Instead of calmly trimming the roster, he lit the entire weekend on fire, pulling off 3 trades in one day. That makes 5 trades in August alone. And here's the wild part. Reports say he's not finished yet. This could just be the beginning. Meanwhile, the first wave of roster cuts is here, and the drama started immediately. Philadelphia has already begun the painful process of slashing the 90-man camp roster down to the final 53, and some of the names cut have already left fans scratching their heads. So far, confirmed cuts include Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Lewis Sinney, Kenyon Green, E.J. Jenkins, Nick Muse, Kylan Robinson, Montrell Johnson, and quarterback Kyle McCord. Now, some of those players, like McCord, Johnson, and Jenkins, could be back on the practice squad within the next 24 hours. But nothing's guaranteed. Once you're cut, other teams can swoop in at any moment. The biggest surprise? Kenyon Green. Remember, this is the same player the Eagles traded for earlier this year, dealing away C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the process. That means Philadelphia essentially gave up one of the best safeties in football. For nothing. Green didn't even survive to the final 53. It's the kind of move that makes fans shake their heads and wonder, how did we get here? Kyle McCord's release also raised eyebrows. Cutting a young quarterback is always risky, but the expectation is he'll land back on the practice squad unless another team steals him away. McCord needs time and reps in the same system, and Philly probably still wants him around. As for the trades, they might seem like small moves, but each one fits into a much bigger picture. The most recent saw offensive lineman Darian Kinnard shipped to the Green Bay Packers for a future 6th-round pick. On paper, it's minor. In reality, it frees up depth and creates room for Fred Johnson to stay on the roster. And let's not forget, Kinnard is one of only 2 players in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. 2 with Kansas City, 1 with Philadelphia. Now he's heading to Green Bay. Will he chase a 4th ring there? That's a storyline to watch. Eagles fans, I need to hear from you. What do you think of these roster cuts and trades? Was cutting Kenyon Green a mistake after dealing away Gardner-Johnson? And do you trust Howie Roseman's master plan, or are the birds playing with fire? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and rate your confidence in this roster heading into week 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. Eagles fans, forget everything you thought you knew about this offensive line depth. Just when it looked like Philly's backups were in trouble, a familiar face is back, and his return could be the hidden gem that saves this season. This is one of those moves that doesn't grab headlines, but it could make or break the Eagles' playoff run. Now, let's be clear, Howie Roseman didn't make these trades because he hated the offensive line. In fact, the opposite might be true. Some of the young rookies have actually shown real flashes of talent during camp. Take 6th-round pick Miles Hinton. This kid might be raw, but the size, the power, the natural tools, you can see the potential oozing off the tape. If the Eagles develop him right, he could be a long-term starter down the road. Then there's fellow 6th-rounder Drew Kendall, who quietly graded out as one of the best rookie offensive linemen in the entire preseason. 6th best overall across the league. That's no small achievement. Philadelphia might have found another hidden gem at backup center, the kind of gritty dog lineman this city always falls in love with. So no, the line wasn't perfect. The preseason exposed plenty of weaknesses, and Kyle McCord learned that the hard way when the protection collapsed on him. But this wasn't about panic. This was about Howie Roseman seeing something he couldn't pass up. A chance to bring back one of the most underrated swing tackles in the NFL. And that brings us to the biggest move of the weekend. Fred Johnson is back in midnight green. Philadelphia swung a quiet, low-cost deal with Jacksonville to bring back Johnson in a simple swap of 2026 seventh-round picks. On paper, it looks tiny. In reality, it could be massive. Remember, last year both Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata missed time, 6 games total. Who stepped in during those games? Fred Johnson. And the Eagles went 5-1 with him in the lineup. The best example? That Bengals game. Fred Johnson lined up across from Trey Hendrickson, one of the most dominant edge rushers in all of football. And he flat out held his own. Hendrickson couldn't get home. Johnson's footwork, his punch, his discipline, it bought Jalen Hurts time over and over again. He didn't just survive against an elite rusher. He neutralized him. Now here's the crazy part. After proving his worth, Philly let him walk in free agency. Jacksonville scooped him up for less than $2 million a year. But things didn't work out down there. Puff gave him some ugly grades overall, and he never locked down a starting spot. The Jags moved on. And just like that, he's back home in Philadelphia. This is the kind of under-the-radar move that fans might overlook, but insiders know it's huge. Because let's be honest, injuries are part of the game. Lane and Mailata are warriors, but they're human. Having a proven veteran like Fred Johnson waiting in the wings could be the difference between winning and losing critical games. So Eagles fans, how big do you think this move really is? Is Fred Johnson just a depth piece? Or could he be one of the unsung heroes of 2025 if injuries hit again? Drop your take in the comments and rate this move from Steal of the Year to just another roster body. Let's rewind for a second. When the Eagles let Fred Johnson walk in free agency, it felt like a mistake. They gambled on rookies, they trusted the next wave of talent. But sometimes, experience is irreplaceable. Because now, we're staring down the reality that Lane Johnson, the heart and soul of this offensive line, has openly said he could retire after this season if the Birds go back-to-back. Think about that for a second. If Lane hangs it up, that's not just a hole on the right side of the line, that's a crater. That's leadership, toughness, and Hall of Fame level protection suddenly gone. And Howie knows it. Bringing Fred Johnson back isn't just about 2025 depth. It's about insurance for the future. Another year under Jeff Stoutland's coaching could turn him from solid backup to potential starter. And if Lane does call it quits, maybe Fred's the guy waiting in the wings. And this right here is why Howie Roseman deserves so much credit. He doesn't sit still. He doesn't cling to old mistakes. He adapts, evolves, changes his philosophy year after year. 5 years ago, he couldn't draft a wide receiver to save his life. Now, wide out is a strength. He used to ignore linebackers. Now they're finally a priority. Even running backs, which Philly GMs have always undervalued, are part of the plan again. Howie has become the ultimate chess master, and every trade feels like another move toward checkmate. Which brings us to trade number 3, and the one that had fans buzzing all weekend. The Eagles landed quarterback Sam Howell from Minnesota in exchange for a package of late-round picks. On the surface, it felt like a head-scratcher. Why bring in another QB? Was Tanner McKee suddenly on the move? Were the Birds plotting something wild? No, the answer is simpler and scarier. McKee fractured his throwing hand thumb, and that means he's not expected to be ready for Week 1 against Dallas. 10 days away, and the Eagles were suddenly down a quarterback. That's why Howell is here. Not as some shocking blockbuster, but as insurance. And it makes sense. Howell isn't just some practice squad arm. He's a 3-year veteran with 20 starts under his belt. He's proven he can sling it in this league. In fact, cast your mind back to 2023. Remember when he and Jahan Dotson lit up the Eagles' defense twice in one season? Yeah, Philly fans remember that pain. Now that same QB is wearing midnight green. Now, let's be clear, Howell isn't here to take Jalen Hurts' job. And honestly, you don't want him playing at all. If he's on the field, something's gone wrong. But this is Howie's philosophy in action. Never let one injury sink the ship. The NFL season is brutal. Players go down. Depth gets tested. Having reliable backups at every position, especially quarterback, is the difference between surviving and collapsing. And for a side note, here's the kicker. Minnesota made this deal to clear space for none other than Carson Wentz. Yes, Eagles fans, you heard that right. The same Carson Wentz who once looked like the future of the franchise is now filling a roster spot in Minnesota so Philly could land Howell. The NFL never stops delivering wild twists. So here's the question for you, Eagles fans. With Sam Howell now in Philly and Lane Johnson's retirement hint hanging over this season, how confident are you in Howie's master plan? Is this genius-level insurance? Or just overthinking the roster? Rate your confidence in the Eagles' depth 1 to 10 in the comments below. Carson Wentz now on his sixth team is wild enough. But the real madness hit this morning when ESPN tried to push Eagles fans into believing that Philly should swing a blockbuster trade for Trey Hendrickson. On paper, it sounds juicy. A proven Pro Bowl pass rusher. The kind of guy who can wreck a game in one snap. But then you read the actual proposal, and it's laughable. ESPN suggested the Birds send Jix Hunt, a 2026 third-rounder, and a conditional 2027 pick to Cincinnati. Stop. Just stop. First off, let me be crystal clear. Jix Hunt is not going anywhere. This dude is the breakout player of camp. Every single beat writer, every reporter covering the Birds has said the same thing. He looks night and day better than last year. He's only 24 years old, he's ascending, and he's on a rookie contract. Pennies on the dollar. That is exactly the type of player you build around, not trade away. Meanwhile, Trey Hendrickson is about to turn 30, wants $40 million a year, and oh yeah, hasn't practiced all offseason because he's still holding out with the Bengals. You trade for him today, and guess what? He's nowhere near football shape. He wouldn't even make an impact in week 1, probably not week 2, maybe not even week 3. So why in the world would Howie give up a young stud like Hunt for an expensive, aging, rusty edge rusher? Answer: he wouldn't. This is classic ESPN trade bait slop. They toss a name like Hendrickson into the mix, slap Eagles in the headline, and watch social media explode. But I'm telling you right now, it's not happening. If Adam Schefter tweeted out Eagles trade for Trey Hendrickson, I'd be absolutely stunned. Now, does that mean the Birds are done making moves? Not necessarily. But if they do, it's going to look a lot different. Real reporting, not clickbait, points to 2 other names: Trayvon Walker and Jalen Phillips. This is where things actually get interesting. According to SI's Ed Crotch, the Eagles have had their eyes on these 2 edge rushers. And it makes sense. Trayvon Walker? The former number 1 overall pick, a Georgia Bulldog. Reuniting him with the Philly Dogs would make this pass rush flat-out terrifying. But it would come at a cost. You're talking about giving up something massive, maybe a first-rounder and Kelly Ringo. That's a steep price. Even for a young star, the more budget-friendly option is Jalen Phillips from Miami. He's talented, but injuries have slowed him down. The Dolphins signing Matthew Judon made him more expendable, so the price tag isn't nearly as high. Still, he'd need a new contract too. Bottom line, Walker and Phillips at least make sense. They're young, they fit the timeline, and they're actually realistic targets. Hendrickson? Forget it, that's just ESPN being ESPN. So tell me, Eagles fans, if Howie made one more big move before week 1, who would you rather see in midnight green? Trayvon Walker or Jalen Phillips? Drop your choice in the comments and tell me if you'd actually pay the price it would take to get them. Let's start with the trade buzz. Yes, multiple beat writers, John McCullen included, have hinted that edge rusher could be the next logical move for Howie Roseman. But I'm gonna be real with you. I still think the Eagles are done. Season's just about here, the roster is stacked, and unless something crazy falls into Howie's lap, I don't see a blockbuster before kickoff. So let's shift gears to Week 1, Eagles versus Cowboys. And the two superstar storylines are crystal clear: A.J. Brown and Micah Parsons. For Philly, the question is simple: will A.J. Brown be ready? He hasn't practiced in almost 23 days thanks to that hamstring, but the good news is he's been ramping things up, running routes, and the expectation is he's close. Could he suit up without a single practice this week and still be fine? Absolutely, he's that talented. But I'd love to see him get on the field at least once before Dallas, just to make sure the conditioning is there. Do the Birds need him to beat the Cowboys? Probably not. But man, it would be a statement to have him back at full speed. Now on the other side, things are messy, because Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones are officially in a standoff. Parsons skipped jerseys, skipped reps, was literally lounging on a table during Dallas's last preseason game. Why? Because he wants his bag, and Jerry isn't budging. Adam Schefter even said this morning he doesn't think Parsons will play Week 1. And even if he signs today, guess what? He's not in game shape. You can't just roll off the couch and go toe-to-toe with Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata for 4 quarters. That takes real conditioning, real practice, and Parsons hasn't had either. So whether he's out entirely or just ineffective, that's a huge win for Philadelphia. And speaking of wins, here's one for Jalen Hurts. The NFL Top 100 dropped this morning and Hurts came in at number 19 overall, ranked by his peers. That's 3 straight years inside the top 20, which basically cements what we already know: the guys who play against him know he's elite. Forget the talking heads and the fake QB rankings, Hurts is respected where it matters most. And oh yeah, he's still the guy leading the Birds into 2025. And before we get out of here, shout out to the latest winners of the Game Changers t-shirt giveaway: Smasherdick, Hayes 3203, and Zwatson 3000. You know the drill. Hit the link in the description to prove it's you, watch out for scammers, and remember, I only announce winners live right here on the show. If you didn't win this round, don't worry, more giveaways are coming. So smash that subscribe button, drop your Eagles Cowboys score predictions in the comments, and stay locked in. Because if Howie pulls another surprise trade before Week 1, you know this channel is the first place you'll hear about it.